Hey, Chris.
Hey, welcome back.
Yeah, episode 3.
Here we are.
It's the last episode of the preview episode.
Is it really?
Yep.
What comes next?
Well, season 1 will start, and that's when we officially start meaning business.
Okay.
Maybe bringing in some guests, going from there. We have just going to tease it. We've got our first sponsor that we'll talk about later this episode.
Oh, that's exciting.
Yeah, so we may have some more sponsors starting next week as well. But this is going to be an exciting episode, a little bit different format than what we've done before. So if you don't have anything you'd like to add, let's go ahead and run the titles.
Yeah, let's get into it.
All right. All right, so this week, episode 3, we have a guest with us.
First guest.
And this is a little interesting. He is going to be asking us kind of some rapid fire style questions about small business, what it's like to run one, work within one, and start one.
Sounds like really overall operational. And of course, with our background, we'll try to tie that in as much as possible to the agency world,
right?
Where we have the most experience here. So we have not seen this list of questions, so
nope.
We don't know what's coming at us.
And we talk a lot about working and trying to create content for the in-house person working somewhere who wants to branch out and start their own agency. So
right.
This may help shed some light onto starting your own business.
Sure, definitely.
So without that, why don't you introduce yourself?
Hey guys, I'm Kenneth Berregard. I'm a student at Pitt Community College, and I'm also a semi-pro soccer referee. I'm excited being here, guys, so thank you.
Yeah, welcome.
We appreciate it.
Absolutely. So, I mean, a little bit more about you. That you mentioned this the soccer referee. Tell me more about this.
Yeah, I started at a young age, so pretty much from the age of, about 12 is when you can start. I started in Okinawa, Japan, so I kind of moved from there, moved to North Carolina, and just started from there, and got a love for it, and I started from there. Started doing college games, and I got pro last year. So from there, it's
very good.
It's a dream of mine that go pro one day.
Yeah, absolutely.
FIFA, but
we'll see you in the MLS someday.
Yeah, maybe.
So what are you going to school for?
I'm trying to become a physical therapist assistant,
okay,
occupational therapist assistant, and a radiographer.
And a radiographer. Yeah, very nice.
Whichever program takes me in, pretty much.
All right, good deal. Well, let's get into this. What do you got?
So I just have some questions for you guys. Some of these might not apply to you guys, but I'm going to shoot my shot here. So your first question is running a business harder or easier than you anticipated it would be? And what makes it easier or harder than you expected?
Oh, I'd say a little bit of both on that. I mean, it's I don't think if you ever are going into business and you ever have the assumption of it's going to be easy, you are drastically mistaken. But at the same time, you find different things that you're very good at, and some things come easy to you, and some things are more difficult. So there's such a broad spectrum of different things that you handle, especially from a small business side, right? I mean, everything from, initial funding money to managing employees to, finding real estate space, and I mean, everything that comes, taxes. There's so many things. Some things you're going to be really good at. Others you're not going to have a clue, and you're going to have to seek help for it. So a little bit of both there.
So I don't own this business and didn't start it, but the businesses I've started, one of my mentors told me that there's no days off when you're in business for yourself, and there's never been a more true statement. So if you think there is that, then that is a misconception.
Yeah, very true.
I've heard that quite a lot.
Very true.
Yeah. All right, so good answer. So my second question is, would you buy into the same sort of business again? If not, why?
Buying into, and at least from a metaphorically speaking, I mean, we started this from nothing. So we didn't buy anything existing by any means. We started it completely from scratch, bootstrapped it for years until really we got to the place that we are today. So I would say 100% yes. I mean, when you figure out what you're good at, again, you stick to it and you just double down on it and you continue to get better and better at it. So if for some reason something were to change in the future with the current Red Shark agency, I mean, absolutely. I mean, you learn so many things from operation side to clients, dealing with clients and project management, and there's no reason to jump out and try to go do something different. I mean, if you're good at it, stick to it, and you can, at least form some kind of a spinoff.
Awesome. Okay, I'm gonna go a little bit off track here. I kind of come up with a
Sure.
question of my own. What was the idea behind this agency? Who came up with the idea of Red Shark Digital?
So quick background here, so we don't spend too much time on it, but I was actually selling Yellow Pages, believe it or not, and this was in the area of trying to establish a mobile application for every single business. It seemed like at the time, so quickly jumped into selling apps to businesses. So that's where we were going in. We were trying to find a tool that could be utilized for the customers of any business. That quickly evolved into doing web development, and we grew from there, adding in SEO until we became a full service agency of what we are today.
Okay, awesome. All right. Does that kind of go in part of, I guess, helping other businesses set up websites? Is that what you kind of guys do?
Spencer, you want to take that one?
Yeah. So now we're set up. Our workflow is set up to basically, if you come to us with the idea of a business, we can help you name that business, create the niche you're going to meet and the gap you're going to fill with inside your business, and then we're going to create what we would consider awareness channels. So if we're creating a website that's going to validate and position you, if we're going to create a marketing campaign that's going to bring awareness to an existing website or a social media page, or even just direct mailers that you want people just to call you, things like that, we would do that. But yes, it does look like building websites for businesses, but ultimately it's solving problems regardless of where you are in the ownership of a business phase, either the ideation of this is the idea, I want to start a business and I need help the whole way through, or we're a 50-year-old business and we need to completely pivot away.
Awesome. Okay. So we're going to go back into the questions. It says, how difficult is it to keep on good staff?
Oh, wow. Incoming bomb.
Yeah. I can take this one.
Yeah,
Okay.
how about it?
So if the best advice I can give to anyone who listens to this, as well as you writing this paper, is just be honest in your interview. And in your applications. We talked about this last week in regards to like males versus females with application processes, where males will be about 60% truthful statistically, whereas females won't apply for a job unless they are able to satisfy all 100% of the requirements. Anyway, we found it's difficult to find people with what we do in the digital space, because you can spend an hour or two and read about what we do and basically fake your way through into getting a job. And even some can fake it better, some not. But like when you look at, carpentry or things like that, it's like actual physical goods being made. You kind of learn very quickly they don't know what they're doing. But with what we do, it can take a couple weeks or a few months or a year of investing time and energy into building someone up to finally realize they all but bald-faced lied to you.
Yeah.
So it's hard, and it's hard at times to discern who's being truthful and who's not. But overall, we're really good to our people, and sometimes better than we should be. And as long as that's reciprocated, it's a good working relationship.
Spencer just hit that. As long as it's reciprocated. And one of the fun things that I've thoroughly enjoyed, especially over the last few years, is we provide so many opportunities for education in-house that, whether it just be from another team member or, paid training or conferences or whatever it may be, that we allow them the opportunity to grow both professionally and personally, that all of those opportunities are there. It's who takes advantage of them, who actually steps up. So, as he mentioned, going through the interview process, it's very difficult to identify that up front. But when you can see all of a sudden it clicks with somebody and they run with it, and it's sometimes somebody that you least expect it from, and it just clicks, it's so much fun to watch that journey and allow them to, they're essentially just taking your playbook and running with it. And that's all you ever ask from somebody. So when somebody actually does it and follows the playbook, step by step. It's extremely exciting, and you get behind them, the whole team rallies behind them, and you just keep, everybody tries to elevate that person.
Right.
I like that answer. All right. How long do you plan on being in this business? And add to it, what do you see this business being in 5, 10 years from now?
That's a loaded question, right? I mean, there's so many different things that can play into that. But I mean, the short answer is, as long as we continue to be successful, profitable company, delivering to our clients is number one, and taking care of our employees and giving back to shareholders, there's no reason for this thing to ever die. Right now, of course, there's all kinds of circumstances that can come along that could change the path of that, but we won't go into all those. At the end of the day, as long as all of those things continue to be met, this keeps living. It keeps moving forward.
Keep the dream living. All right. What are your highest business expenses? If you could give me about 3, if you can think of at the top of your head.
Payroll. No, seriously. I mean, in our business, it truly is number one, payroll. I mean, it's our people. We don't have, we're not stocking up inventory and goods and different products and whatnot in house, and it's our people. They're the ones that produce the work. So from a payroll standpoint, everything that comes along with that and benefits. After that, we'd probably go into a little bit of the overhead, followed suit by probably our subscriptions and different applications. When you add kind of a little bit of,
Well, we have paid advertising stuff.
well, yeah, I mean, of course,
Technically,
yeah,
technically that's our inventory.
yeah. Our paid advertising, like our budget that we run for our clients, our paid advertising dollars, that's up there. That's honestly probably the number one overall. I had to compare those two numbers, but outside of that, payroll, just general overhead, and we invest a lot into different subscriptions that we use for project management and anything design related. I mean, Spencer could probably rattle off a dozen different things that we subscribe to. That it all adds up.
Yeah, because at the end of the, like what Chris said about payroll, he jokingly said payroll, but end of the day, we're a service-based company, and we, like with paid advertising, like I mentioned, we do pass that. That's money passed through. Like a client has a budget, and we manage that budget for them. So that's money it's passing through us to the publishers, but it's still, end of the day, it's a check that has to be struck. But any service-based business you talk to, payroll is going to be their biggest expense, because like Chris said, their people is their product. That's not good grammar, but you get it.
I do. All right. No, I think you kind of touched point on this, but how do you market your business?
We outsource it.
We can keep it there.
So we're really big on. So we do run paid advertising. We do a lot of search advertising for ourselves, and then we do a lot of inbound marketing with our content. So we push a lot of content out. Right now, with the podcast being added, we're pumping out well over 60 pieces of content per week from the agency.
That's a lot of content, guys.
That's a lot of content. That's written content. That's video content, audio content. We do have, and then we've got social posts that we post. So we do a lot of just content marketing for the most part. And our content for the most part is things like, I keep saying for the most part, but our content is mainly things like this where it's value added. So we're adding value to our potential clients in the future. Like if you look at our social media, we're adding value to those in our industry, not our clients. Our blogs on that side and our newsletters adding value either to our partners on the traditional side that we partner with for our digital services to them, or to a business owner who's been a client in the past, and we're educating them on a new tactic or something like that. But I would say the bulk of our efforts are placed in content marketing, and then we do have some paid search advertising as well.
It's funny. I'll talk to different people in marketing and different agency owners, and for the most part, we do not have and have not had an outbound sales team or sales effort. And to be to see the growth that we've experienced over the last few years and to be where we are today, it's they honestly are just completely flabbergasted when you say that. How do you gain leads? How are you selling more and more business and this and that? And they're like, we've got a sales team of account executives of 6 people, and we're trying our best to find and win new business. And I'm like, we don't have any. Now we have account managers and project managers and so forth that attribute, obviously, in any kind of a sales call or meeting and whatnot, that of course that is true sales, but as an outbound effort, there really isn't one, and there really hasn't been. So that's kind of a unique thing that you don't come across very often in any agency, especially within digital marketing. There's typically always some kind of an outbound sales team that's always trying to find new leads and close new business.
Right.
It proves successful. I mean, we get a lot of clients we've won because they'll say, you weren't gimmicky, you gave substance, you weren't sales-esque, like
authentic.
Exactly.
Yep.
Like we had a client, I'm sorry, I'm going a long ways on question 5 or whatever, but we had a client one time, and we were the third meeting of the day. They met with 5 agencies. We were the 4th meeting of the day, excuse me. And we ended up going back there 3 different times. I remember this was during a time at Red Shark when I slept here for about 6 or 8 weeks with a project that we're not going to talk about. And so I didn't look the best, I was probably on about 2 hours of sleep going in there.
Frazzled.
Yeah, going in there. And beard was probably longer than it is now, and hair too. And I walked in, and I was wearing like just a button down with jeans and a pair of Oxfords. And the guys coming out were wearing suits like you are. And they were like super confident, bubbly acting and everything. And that Chris knows how I am about stuff like that. And so I'll go in there and I sit down and I'm just listening. And finally she's very blunt, this client of ours. And she says, well, what do you have to say? Like, you're not talking. And because our account manager was talking, I was like, oh, I'm just listening. Like, I'm listening. Like, I'm in receive mode. I'm not here to suggest anything. I just want to hear what you want to accomplish. Well, no, you're here because I want to know what you would do for me. I'm like, okay, well, this is what I'll do. And I'd be like, bang, 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 bang. And I was like, it's going to go here and filter up through there, and we're going to bring it over here. And then 3 months in, we're going to lateral of this. And the look on her face is just like, and I didn't think anything of it at the time because, again, I'm delirious. I meet with them 3 other times. Finally, we secure their business. They're a great client now. And a couple weeks ago, she brought in another team member and introduced them to myself and our account manager. And she's like, this one right here. She's like, I love him to death now, but that first time I didn't know anything about him. Walks in, shirt. She's like, you just came in with your shirt untucked and just sat there. She's like, your beard was long, and she like reached over and grabbed your beard. She's like,
did she really?
Yeah. Oh yeah. And she loves. She's a toucher, and she's like, I was on, but then he started talking, and I started listening, and man, everybody was just trying to sell me and all that stuff and make me sign contracts. And she's like, but this guy, I knew this guy was the guy they had in the basement doing the work. I'm like, well, I'm not in the basement.
Not in the basement. Not anymore.
That's not who. Not anymore. That's not who I am. But anyway, so it's funny that's like we don't have the outbound salespeople. We don't really have salesy people at all, and we have a client like that basically says like, we recognize you weren't a salesperson, and that's why we chose you.
Okay.
Yeah. So
that's a big win.
Yeah. Yep. Anyway, a little bit more context than you probably asked for, but
that'll get at least 2 pages.
There you go, man. we're working for you to get an A.
I hope I get it. All right. What kind of training did you guys have before this startup business?
Absolutely none. I have no idea what we're doing. No, but I mean, I've been in marketing for over 10 years, and so I had relatively good, solid experience, 4 years of experience in just general marketing before going into it as a whole. But I didn't. I took a few classes in school and whatnot, and I'm already going down that road of what we've talked about a couple times now. But it's never really what certifications and what education do you have. It's what can you produce? How can you do it? Can you figure it out? Can you solve what Spencer had mentioned about a few minutes ago? Can we solve the issue at hand? If we can solve it, we've proved ourselves, and we've done that hundreds and hundreds of times to date. Spencer's background is a little bit different. Started in a variety of different things, but right before Red Shark was photography. So
yeah,
photography.
Yeah.
we've been able to use those skills, fortunately, in a variety of different ways over the years. But, nothing, it's not like, either of us worked at an agency before or anything along those lines. It's, we just take what we know and we just continue to learn. One of the things that we push on everybody is just continue to be better. And, we both spend a lot of time on external resources, ensuring that we are always following that path, bettering ourselves every single day.
You spoke a little bit about photography. My mom's a professional photographer, and she has her own website as well.
Nice.
So any advice that you could give that?
I don't know what platform she's using, but if it allows for alt text, use it. Within Lightroom, if she edits with Lightroom, make sure your copyright and your metadata is in your export settings, because it works. Because I've got, like, if you search my name, Spencer Bunting, you're going to find photos that I took 5 years ago, and I haven't, like, I still shoot some on the side, and I still book jobs, and I haven't posted anything publicly in like 3 years. So alt text in your images if your website allows for it. If she's using something like Squarespace or SmugMug or anything like that, or like Shoot It, they'll allow for that. And then make sure your metadata and your Lightroom export as well. Make sure where you would place your copyright, put your metadata in for certain keywords, especially your name and stuff like that. Helps a lot.
Okay, awesome. I'm sure she'll appreciate that.
Yeah.
Now, do you guys own this business, or is it you guys consider it a franchise? And if it is a franchise, what are the benefits of buying into the franchise?
It is not a franchise. We work with other franchises, but it's not our model. That's not how it is here. So we do have some other shareholders, privately held LLC, and the beauty of it is remaining small and in a tight group. It gives us complete free reign to do whatever we want to do and operate however we want to.
Okay.
But you do own majority.
That's right.
Right.
We kind of touched base on number 10. We'll go into the next question. How do you find people to bring into your organization that truly care about this organization the way that you do?
We just hire my friends.
Pretty much where we're at today.
But no, it's truthfully, it's understanding a little bit. We do really well in hiring from within. So some of our best people we have are people that started as part-timers and intern. And it's by recognizing that when they're given a new task, they take it and they learn to either complete it or they ask the right questions, or when they're asked to go above and beyond, they willingly do it and they kind of willingly do it and then ask what for later. So they kind of prove themselves there. And then there's, when we're talking to people that are new who are looking at hiring, it's very much so just understanding their overall non-work related interests, if that makes sense. Like we're not the people that we want you going to dinner with us all the time. We're not going to be best friends hanging out all the time. But understanding you're going to have to spend between 40 to 60 hours with somebody, it's interesting. It goes a long way to at least know where we stand on different mindsets, So we put a understanding that we've been lied to a lot in the past. We focus a lot of our energy on the overall personality of a person and their compatibility with us as a company, not so much their skills. Does that make sense?
It does.
Yeah. I live by a mantra that if you can think it, like if you can have the idea, I can teach you how to do it. But I can't teach you how to think. Yeah.
Yep.
All right, good answer. We'll touch a little bit on a couple more questions. How important have good employees been to your success?
I mean, I don't know. I struggle to identify them, but no, I'm totally kidding. Spencer started as graphic designer, part-time, hourly, pretty entry-level hourly wage, if I remember correctly, and in a little over about 3 years, all the way up to COO, and operates everything inside and outside of this company. So when you can identify that and you can remove obstacles and chains and allow people to run with a path and a vision that's aligned with where you want to go, the possibilities are endless. And, he joked about, hiring his friends, but I mean, there are several people that work here that have been good friends for a long time, and you're all actually involved in a church organization, for the most part outside of here, which is really cool because it's allowed them to work together in a different environment. They do a lot of different media production and different groups at the church that it's very easy for him to identify, hey, who works and who's just here just to play and have fun. Yeah. And that's a really good starting point to say, hey, this person's got a great work ethic. Maybe we should talk to him a little bit further and see what happens.
Yep. It's worked well so far.
That's good. All right, these two, I like these two. What pieces of advice would you give to college students who wants to become an entrepreneur?
Don't wait till you graduate. Do it.
Yeah.
Simple as that.
Yeah.
Yeah. I've seen so many times that they will do that, and then as soon as they graduate and get a job of any kind, all of those previous efforts and ambition goes completely out the window. It's like, I don't have time for it any longer. It's something that they're doing on the side, and sometimes it's a good idea, and it could go somewhere. Sometimes it's not. But at the end of the day, it's just there's a very quick excuse that comes into play. I don't have enough time in the day. And I'm sorry, but if you ever have that excuse when you're creating a business or wanting to create a business, you are the old term of a wantrepreneur. You're not going to be able to, you want to be that person. You want to have, the things that come with it, advantages and disadvantages. But, when it's time to grind or put in more, sacrifice whether it be home, going out with your friends or spending money on this or that, there's all these different things that you can sacrifice in order to work a full-time 40-hour a week job and still be able to accomplish whatever you started either in school or whatever you want to start today. Even if they haven't done it, and they've got that job, I mean, there is time to do it. You just have to do.
Okay. So pretty much when the idea comes, stick to it and see where it goes from there.
Yeah. And not overthink it. Like, me and you have had those conversations too. I think I might have told this story one time already, but about we were going somewhere. You had a folder or something.
Yeah.
So I was like
over prepared.
Yeah, I was like, no, just go. Just do it. So it's like there's so many opportunities too, like with entrepreneurship. Like if I'm saying this, and I know people that work here listen to this. If you work for somewhere that does tech or any type of tech stuff, and you want to start with tech, you can basically use the work computer, steal the work internet, and then print stuff too, as long as they're not tracking it. Now, don't get any ideas if you work for Red Shark, because we're going to come get you. But it just in general, there's not like Chris said about the want. If you're looking at things like if I can only do this, or if this is that and this is that, timing's never going to be perfect. It's just like money, like saving money. Timing's never perfect to save money, but when you save first and then spend second, you start saving more. But like any type of thing that you're starting right now, unless you're starting something that's got like a huge amount of capital you have to like buy product or something like that. And even that, you can start preparing. Like you can start reaching out and building relationships with potential investors. You can start proving the concept beforehand, like a sample size, things like that. But I mean, Chris and I have talked about this. Like I ran drop shipping stores a lot in my first 2 years here. And those things, I don't know what you know about drop shipping. But those things are like you prop them up, and if they do well, you take them, like you leave them there. If they don't do well, you take them down and start again. And that's like every day. Like every day you're starting a new store. If it does well, within the first 30 minutes to an hour of ads, you're good. If not, start over. Like fail fast. It's a really, really minute example, but it's like just do it.
Don't be afraid to fail.
Yeah, fail forward is the main thing.
Yep.
I don't know who coined that term, but it's a big term.
All right. All right. If you had the chance to start over, what would you change?
Chance to start over, what would I change?
Stay on 10th Street.
Yeah. Probably move a little bit less. We've
Yeah.
moved a lot.
Yeah.
Probably. I mean, when you're going through,
It kind of goes apart with the business.
uh-huh.
If you had a chance to do the business over again, was there something you'd change, or would you stick to what you did before?
I think the biggest thing, overlying thing that I would come back to is, while you're bootstrapping a business, utilizing every resource that you possibly can, and going into debt and to get to where you need to be. Always make sure that you're planning for the long term. You're not planning for just 30, 60, 90 days from now. You're planning for 12, 24 months, 36 months from now, whether you're going to make it there or not. Whether the inevitable seems like it's impossible, we're never going to make it to that point, you still have to plan and operate the business like you're going to.
Okay.
Yeah, if you are in the place where you're working somewhere else and you're leaving a job, have a year's worth of expenses already paid, like saved.
Yeah. Yep.
Or 6 months. When I started my first company on my own, which was like web hosting and freelance graphic design, I had 6 months worth of bills. Now my bills were like nothing at the time because I lived with 3 other people in an old house that rent was stupid cheap, but I had 6 months worth of bills saved. That was for my personal bills. So anything I made from the business, I could put back into the business, either a new computer or a new program or anything like that. Because this is a time when programs I used were $1,000 a month. I mean, $1,000 a year. They weren't $10 a month.
Yeah, right.
They were $1,000 a year, and if you might get lucky and get a pirated copy, or you might get your computer, your IP blacklisted. So yeah, just make, like Chris said about, don't look at the 30, 60, 90, look at, way in the future, but, and also like a more, I guess, actionable piece is like, make sure your runway is at least a year. Like you have a year's worth of runway.
I made that very mistake. I jumped immediately into, I found a solution, a way to build and mobile apps like how we had started, and started selling them very quickly. And all of a sudden I had revenue, and I had a job too that I was supposed to be doing, selling Yellow Pages, different, internet products and whatnot, traveling all over the place. And all of a sudden I had to make a really fast decision of, hey, I've got to make a break here, or this is just going to have to stop. And it felt like too much of an opportunity and low risk generally. I mean, I didn't have kids, wasn't married at the time. I was with my wife, but wasn't married at the time. And it just felt like a go. Don't really think of the ramifications, just go. And I was making really good money doing that, and I did not have enough saved up. I went into $80,000 in debt very quickly, about the first 18 months or so. I mean, that took years to work through. So, I did what I had to do, to get through that and keep the lights on, both at home and in the office.
All right. I guess we'll do one more question before we take a little break. What would you say are the top 3 skills needed to be a successful entrepreneur?
Insomnia. No, you need to know how to talk to people, or if you don't know how to talk to people, have somebody who can talk to people. You need to be able to quickly prove the value in what you do. And then you need to understand that it's you first before anything else. So not you first in a selfish way, but like it falls on you ultimately to get your job done. So like with, obviously, I'm not the owner here, but with the team, I can blame the team. Like I can say, X, you were so slow, but you didn't get it done. But end of the day, when I meet with a client, or I'm meeting with Chris and the other ownership, the rest of the ownership group, and I'm talking, I can't say to them, so-and-so didn't get it done, no problem, wash my hands of it. Like you have to be accountable, you have to be driven and want it, and then you have to be somewhat social, because end of the day, it's still just you.
Yep, that's right.
Yeah.
Awesome. All right.
You can be weird like the big tech CEOs that don't talk to people,
Yeah, understood.
For the most part, small businesses, you need to be able to talk to people.
All right, good. I think it's a good time for a break.
episode. We're going to have to look at the camera here. We're lacking a producer today, so I'm just going to look there. This week's episode, we are actually supported by J. Scott Investments. J. Scott Investments is a small business banking that works for you. With over a decade of lending experience, J. Scott Investments offers something the market hasn't given business owners before: a partner and an advocate. Fund solutions tailored specifically to your business needs. Their secret is contractual relationships with direct lenders that allow compensation without having you feel the financial burden. Get peace of mind when you partner with J. Scott Investments. What are you waiting for? Start living your dream career today and apply now at jscottinvestments.com/apply now. So, what do you think so far, Chris?
Pretty good.
Looks like we're about half an hour in.
Okay. Well,
might be in for a doozy.
Yeah, it looks that way. So you've got 45 total, is that right?
Yes.
Okay.
Ready to go.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, if we have to, we can hit that 60-minute mark. It's just start rapid fire.
Yeah, if we hit 60, we'll just hit. Well, yeah, 3 words only.
Yeah, that's fine with me.
He asked the question in 3 words, and we answer it in 3 words.
Okay.
It's gonna get really muddy.
Maybe we should put a rapid fire button here on this table for
We need
just
to.
anything.
Yeah,
Overall
we need
timer too. We talked about that.
We should make the lights blink red when
Yep.
it hits into rapid fire time.
Sudden death.
Yeah, sudden death question round.
All right.
All right, shoot.
All right. Moving on. What have been some failures and what have you learned from them?
Gosh, all kinds of failures. I mean, I think probably the hardest one that is the most difficult to master is on the managing people side. And I mean, we've talked some about it already, but it's so difficult to manage people in general, but to give them the skills and the opportunities for them to succeed with you. You have to make sure that you have all the right things in place for when things go wrong, and know how to handle certain situations. So, whether you have 1 employee, 2 employees, 20, 100, at the end of the day, the rules and laws of things are pretty much apply the same, and you've got to be knowledgeable to know how to handle all of these different situations. So, I mean, if you're a startup, you're the CEO, you're the CFO, you're the HR person, you're the operations guy. I mean, you're everything. So you wear a lot of different hats. And if you go into something that, you haven't even put that hat on for a little while, to have a little bit of background to know what you're doing in that point, you can really get yourself in trouble. Okay. Not that we've ever experienced that, directly. I mean, we've been fortunate enough to always be, as prepared as we possibly can be in any situation. It's one of those things that, again, back to the wearing hats, you got to have a little bit of knowledge of everything.
Okay. When an idea comes up in your head for a business or for being an entrepreneur, how long would you stick with that idea before you give it up, move on to the next idea?
Depends on what the friction is from keeping you getting it to a successful manner.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah, so if you're running into a funding problem, you can call our friends at J. Scott Investments, jscottinvestments.com/apply now.
Boom, free plug.
Yeah. No, if it's a funding problem, you can, funding something we talk about this on Blue Collar CFO, another show on our network, but it's something you plan for before you need it. That's when you're already established. But also with on the entrepreneur side, when you're starting a business, or trying to fund an idea, you have to, like I said, if it's the funding's kind of that thing that with your network, and if you're looking in the right places, that's something that may take some time, but it is something that can come relatively easily if you play it correctly. Understand it's going to take some time, and you're going to have some hiccups here and there. If it's you have lack of talent around you, it's is the lack of talent there? Is your idea too advanced? Not too advanced, but are you thinking at a faster rate than technology is allowing for, and you don't even know that? So you've got to find the person to tell you. And then ultimately, is it something that's a completely saturated market? Is it something that you're trying to? It's not a very wide gap that you're able to satisfy. or someone has created a wide gap. So Seth Godin talks about this in a book where he talks about to catch up with someone who's doing a really good job, you have to either take a different route or be prepared to spend a lot of money and time. So he uses Microsoft Office as an example, right? So Microsoft Office for forever has had Word, it's had Excel, it's had PowerPoint. I think they have Publisher now, which does website stuff, and then they've got another one that does the Paint. They have Microsoft Paint.
That makes me cringe.
Yeah, it makes me cringe too. But then Google's now we have Google Apps with Google Docs, Gmail. So Outlook was Microsoft's email client. So you have Gmail, you have Google Docs, Google Sheets, Google Slides. You also have Google Drawing. So what they did, Google obviously has enough money to spend money to beat them, but what they did is they changed the platform entirely. So instead of trying to compete with Microsoft in regards to a relatively expensive at the time desktop software, Google changed the platform entirely and made it so you had to use it within a browser, and it was free. So it's like now with the business side and G Suite side, you can they make their money, but for Google to gain market share of the Office software community and industry, they changed the platform entirely. So it's understanding, are you going to be able to fill a gap or not? But even that comes down back to friction. So it's understanding, is the friction that you're experiencing from it being successful or not within your control or out of your control?
All right. We're gonna add two of these questions together, trying to make it short. How many hours a day do you work on average, and describe and outline that typical day?
You first, Vince.
Okay. Typical most days, probably in the office, probably 12. The average day. It hasn't been like that the last week. The average day is probably about 12 hours here, and then I'll go home and work for probably 2 or 3 more, so I guess that's 15. But there have been times when it's been even longer than that. There's been times, like I told Chris about this recently, when I was leaving, where we just moved here a few weeks ago into this office. When we were leaving the existing office at the time, we shared a building with other people. So our office was one suite out of the rest of them. Excuse me. And there were times when I would go in our front door, and not only would I never go outside of our building, I would never leave our office, like into the rest of the building, anywhere. For like 12 or 14 hours, like it would hit me. I'd get there when it's dark, leave when it's dark, and walk out and be like, I haven't left my desk, But so I'm kind of a rogue in that regard. But my day is basically spent, the first part of the day is spent catching up on whatever came through in the middle of the night or first thing that morning, in regards to email, project management, any type of team communication. I'm preparing. Every morning we have a stand-up, which we video in our Raleigh office, and sometimes we call in people who aren't here, maybe out for meetings or things like that. But for the most part, the whole team is together for 15 minutes, standing around in a circle. So I prepare for that. We have stand-up. After that, I typically have like one-on-one conversations with everybody, making sure that they are prepared for the day and what they need to have. If they have any questions for me, the bulk of my 11 to 3:30 or 4 is typically spent in meetings. That's where I like to have those meetings, between 11 and 4, and then around 4:30, around 4 to 4:30, I'm debriefing from emails that I've missed in those meetings, and then I kind of get settled in my office to start working on whatever I'm actually doing. So whether that's preparing a presentation, working on proposals, contracts, so I still do some design work. Maybe working on a piece of content for us, maybe still replying to things, working through solutions for problems other team members have, and overall preparing, and then moving into whatever side stuff we've got coming 3-4 months away from now for the business that we're going to be introducing, that we're working on in parallel. So it's basically, I work my Red Shark shift, and then I clock out and work my second shift of whatever else is there. Now, there has been a time when there was a project that we had like that. There was a project where I literally worked my 9-hour Red Shark day. I would leave for like 30 minutes or walk around for like 30 minutes, and then I would sit back down at my desk and work another 8-hour day on that project.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah,
That was
we reference that one a lot, quite a bit.
I have PTSD.
Yeah. You're not the only one.
So,
And Chris, is it kind of the same thing that?
So
this dude, he
it
just
used to be.
takes
Right
naps
now,
and watches the news.
I just,
Wait for
it's
the
funny. I
message.
used to, when my job when I was selling Yellow Pages, there's this guy there that he was like a senior AM, and he told me he would go home every day and he would take like a 20 or 30-minute nap. This is totally running down a hole right now, but and how, he'd be able to do it, close his eyes for 20 minutes and boom, bounce back. Ronald Reagan did it every day in the White House and this and that. And anyways, I used to do that when I worked that job. And I'm one of those that I can close my eyes for 15 or 20 minutes and, snap awake and be right back at it and not feel, like I just I missed a 2-hour nap or whatever it may be. But anyways, it used to be very aligned with Spencer's pretty much daily flow of, at least from an aspect of 12 hours a day. I mean, I was that way for years. I've been fortunate enough to work into a position and hire the right people and maintain a team that, can allow for the day-to-day operations to continue without my constant oversight. And, a lot of that comes from the ability of just, overall growth in general, but also, working through times of figuring out, okay, well, not working in the business, working on the business now, and trying to always look at the long-term vision of what we're doing, what every seat is doing. I work a lot with our partners as well. So, when I am in the office, it's pretty aligned with, the general flow of the day. But, from my seat, it's never off. I mean, it doesn't matter if I'm on vacation or it's in the middle of the night or what time of day it is, it's always on. There's never, if you begin to ignore things that are coming through when you're in this seat, I think that is a telltale sign that you're either burnout or you're not fit for it any longer, whatever it may be, that it's time to move on. And I think if anybody ever has those feelings, it's probably a good time to just pause and maybe look in the mirror and reassess things. So, I always wake up very first thing, grab my phone, and I go through what did I miss when I was asleep. And right before I go to bed, I do the same thing because I do not want to wake up first thing in the morning and feel like I am behind. I keep a note in my phone of, hey, this is what I got to do. And I'll actually label it. It's not very organized, but I think it is. I'll label a new note the day, I'll just say Thursday, and it'll just be a bullet list of everything I want to accomplish that day. So when I wake up, I already know what I'm going to do that day. And of course, if I don't get to anything, move it to the next day. But I mean, in general, you're always trying to accomplish everything on that list. It's a great way for people that can't figure out, hey, there's not enough time in the day. I want to do this. I want to do this with my family, or I want to go out to dinner. I want to go work out, but I got to work 8 hours at my job, and I still need 2 hours to do my side hustle. The time is there, and if you actually detail that out into a hour by hour, and you stick to it, the time is there. You'd be amazed how much you actually waste on. I see a lot of people just wasting it on social media in general. Just scanning. There's social media is a phenomenal tool. It's a big piece of the business that we're in, but if you're just using it to, dilute your time and admire in ways that's not going to be beneficial to you of what you're trying to achieve, you're not learning in any way. You're just completely wasting your time. So, I mean, in general, I would, I've always said to people, just detail out your entire day. There's time. I cannot stand when somebody says they want something, and then they go, I don't have enough time. And you're looking at them, and you're just like, what you can do, and you don't feel like you're any different from them. It's just like, well, there is time. It's right here. Well, what are you doing during this time stretch from, 7 to 9 p.m.? What are you doing? Oh, I'm just, catching up on The Bachelor.
Yeah, I just tell people they're lazy.
Yeah. Well, that's what it is.
Yeah.
And, Spencer's always more direct and blunt than I am, and but that's exactly right.
I just treat my list like I've got my list, and it's probably been a long time since you've seen it, but I have like a note just like you, but it's a week. So it'll have like week of, and then it has the Monday through the Sunday. and I start with my list, and then every day, like as something comes in, I add it to the bottom, and as things are checked off, I move them to a done, and I've got it broken out like hands, like actual work I have to produce. I have mind for things I have to solve and think through, and then I have communication, which is like either emails or proposals or presentations, things like that. But it helped. Whatever works. There's no specific rhyme or reason, but keep trying different note-taking structures, things like that, to be more efficient. But that's not your question, but it's some good information.
It's great information.
It's
I
about how to be
that.
efficient in your day.
Awesome. Okay. Now working all these hours, has this affected your family life, friend life?
I don't have a family or friends.
He's a rogue.
Yeah,
we actually had to funnel natural sunlight into his office one time.
Yeah, it's weird. It was a weird day. I would say, yeah. Come back for episode 2, I guess, or season 2. I would say that for me, there was definitely friends that I've had that weren't as accommodating to me working a lot. Or you miss out on things. So it's not like they're not like, well, we're not going to include Spencer. It's just like over time, like I would miss things, and then I would just kind of naturally not be, not invited, but not like a big deal of like making sure I was present and aware. But that's on me more than anything else. And those relationships have been rebuilt and remedied. But there's definitely times I'm engaged, and she's been very patient, especially on weekends and things like that when I have to work to get us caught up. But I've been more conscious about fixing things, so I am able to maintain that relationship and certain relationships better, and making work sacrifices, because just like with owning the business, it's very easy to like business, like work is work, and that's it. Like that's what I do. And then I work first, and then I'm this, or then I'm that, or then I'm this. And so I had that mindset for a couple of years, but luckily there was no irreparable damage from it.
All right. Is there someone or something that motivates you?
I wouldn't say someone.
We both suffer from imposter syndrome.
Yeah. So. Refer back to the last episode if you missed that.
Yeah.
Part 2 coming soon. I think just in general, I like to feel that I accomplished something like every day. And that's a part of like why, back to the list, like if I, complete everything on my list, I feel, at least relatively accomplished for that day that I completed something. So you've always got to be continually working towards, more like a higher end open goal. I mean, I don't have some line that's drawn, somewhere down in the sand that's 5-10 years from now, whatever it may be, that I'm like, okay, I hit it. I'm good. Accomplished it. My work here is done. I don't have that. I don't know if that's right or wrong, but, I don't have that. And it's just a constant, again, you're just trying to accomplish more and more every day.
Yeah. I think there's probably inspiration for certain facets of the existing company. But there's not an inspiration for me in regards to like wanting to take us where we're going, or like put us where we are.
More on a personal side now that, and going back to your previous question, I mean, now I have, was married, and then all of a sudden, not a whole lot changed in terms of, the work home balance, in that situation. But I tell you what does change it is kids. And it unfortunately took me a little bit of time to figure that out. And fortunately, it wasn't too late. I was able to, identify that and realize, what truly is important, and how to better balance being a father and still all the obligations that come with running the business. Very, very challenging to do. It's something that's, I literally deal with every single day of, just trying to balance that out.
I remember when Chris's second kid was coming, like a few months before, like not in the moment. And he's talking to me and the CFO, and he's like, well, I'll be back at this day. I'll be back on that day. And we're both like, no, you need to stay home with your kid. Like, it just like, Chris's primary residence isn't in Greenville. So I was like, no, like you're not coming back 2 weeks after. Like, just no.
My wife likes to remind me of
Yeah.
the times with our firstborn and just the overall. I was still prioritizing the business and as number one, overall number one, and I relatively still do today. I've just found a better way to balance my time and the whole work life ratio. But I mean, you're never off ever. So you just find the ways to be in the moment. If you have an opportunity to go and do something and enjoy some time with the family or your kids, you do it and you be present and you're there. And when you do that, it's reciprocated. It should be reciprocated, and it is in my case. I'm speaking to others out there. It should be reciprocated back to you. So when you have that mutual understanding, you have not necessarily leverage there, but you have at least the ability to go do what you have to do, right? And if you don't have that, you're going to have a difficult road ahead for you.
Okay, so pretty much, it's okay to be a self-motivator. Like, you don't need someone to help you accomplish what you're accomplishing.
I don't know that you don't need someone, but I don't think that.
I mean, to you personally,
I'm not aspiring to be somebody that I have identified or anything along those lines. It's I have different things that motivate me. I mean, like I just talked about. I mean, family and kids. I mean, obviously, that motivates you in a different way than it did from when I initially started the business. And one of the biggest things that made me start to look outside of what I was doing in that sales job was I felt guilty as shit every time I walked in the door to another small business and had to sell them what I was selling because I wouldn't buy it myself. Mm-hmm. And I can say that now, but I would hear the stories and see this, family-run business and, they're just trying to make ends meet and employ 10, 15, 20 people. And then you're going in and trying to sell them, some kind of an advertised marketing product that you didn't believe in. And you knew it was shit. And that drove me nuts. I mean, to the point where I started going in and being blunt about it and saying, whether it was like a renewal or something, and I would say, hey, I wouldn't do this myself. And I would literally walk out knowing that, hey, I just got a cancellation, whatever. I'm not going to get paid the commission on it. So be it. And that obviously that started to affect my paycheck to a point of, realizing, hey, I could probably go do something better or bring these people something better than I'm bringing them today.
Would you say that fear of failure is a motivator?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, for sure.
That's actually one of my questions.
Yeah, I'm trying to get an answer to, like, I'm really good at surfacing answers with other people, but I'm not that great about it doing it for myself. So I'm working through an answer to give you from my side, but what would motivate me? But
as a very young kid and all through grade school and growing up and whatnot, my dad had a sense of instilling a fear in me of failure, of fear. And I was not. I mentioned this in our last episode. I was always a BC student, and it took me a lot to be a BC student, right? So this was all based on, okay, report cards came back and, told, hey, you're a smart kid, why aren't you doing better in school? You're not really getting in trouble. And, where's the disconnect? And it was just like a constant, like, hey, you got to figure this out or else, there's all kinds of ramifications now. And then when you're older, there's going to be all kinds of ramifications. And I think that just kind of gave me that, hey, and I would try harder and harder and harder at school. And then finally I had the realization I'm never going to be better than a B and C student. I got to figure out something else. And that's when I started, at the age of 14, I started CARS, C-A-R, my initials, CARS Auto Detail. And I went around.
Such a clever guy.
Right. Went around to about 200 houses and spreading out flyers. And I started detailing cars left and right. And just like I realized, hey, I'm good at work, and especially when it's me and something I care about and I'm going to deliver on it. And I started getting really, really good feedback from what I was doing. It's like, it was just like a relief of, hey, I started something. I'm, something I am passionate about and care about. And and it works. So yeah, I mean, to answer that directly, it's probably for the most part fear of failure.
Okay.
Yeah, it's probably. I'm not gonna say the same, but I think a lot of people could say the same.
All right. So we're gonna go through a change of pace here. We're gonna do some rapid fire, if that's all right with you guys.
Yeah, let's go.
All right. Here we go. All right.
It's got a really good clip on failure and fear.
Yep. How far are you willing to go for this success?
I've gone pretty far, and meaning, especially from a monetary standpoint, personal debt and business debt over the years of trying to make everything come together. I mean, if at the end of the day that fails, it's all me. It's coming back on. It's my name, and that is, I've seen it happen to people, and it's just years and years and years of digging out of those holes. But one thing that I've always doubled down on, and is myself. Continually bet on myself that, what we're doing, myself, and when I mean that of like what we're doing as a team, while it's myself that has those responsibilities from a fiscal standpoint, I will always bet on myself and my team to get to wherever we need to go. It's not failed me to date, and I don't think that it ever will be, continuing to make the right moves. Yeah.
Okay. How do you guys define success?
Take expense.
Being able to live the life you want to live. Yeah.
Boom.
Perfect. All right. What is the best way to achieve a long-term success?
Set clear goals. So basically, live the life you want to live. It's funny, Ryan, who's my fiance, she and I talk about this a lot, about where we talked about this last episode about like promotions that have been given. Like, it's never been like hey, Chris, I need this, or give it to me. It's always been earned, and then continued to be earned on top of that. But for me, money, it's knowing what you want to do. So what do you want to do in life? There's like 3 things that I want in life, physical things that I want eventually, and understand how much those cost, and then find a job that pays for those things. That, in my term, if I'm happy with what I have and content with what I have, I'm successsul. So,
do any of them have 4 wheels?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. 2 of them do. 2 of them do.
Nice.
And so it's just understanding, like, so I've set clear goals. So like, I know what I've got to do my goal is, I won't feel like a failure if I never hit them, but I would ideally like to hit them by the time I'm 35 or 40. So I've got 7 to 12 years left.
Okay.
7 to 13 years left, excuse me.
All right. Next question. Is your company profitable, or what is your profit for last year? Now, it's okay if you guys don't answer that question.
We were profitable last year, right?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah. We've always been profitable. And I mean, I won't dig into further details on that, but I mean, I think you said it at the beginning of this. It's you've got to make sure that that's number one or close to it when starting a new business. Is making sure that there's a really good book called Profit First.
Profit first.
All right.
Profit over revenue.
Awesome. Where did your organization's funding capital come from, and how did you go about getting it? And how did you obtain those investors for your venture?
Initially, right off the bat, I had a partner that I started this with that I bought out a few years ago. We reached out to 2 family members and had an initial investment of $30,000, so it was $15,000 apiece. So we started all of this on that initial. There was never any additional. It was like, hey, this is it. You better make it work. And that's what got us off the ground initially. Now, a variety of things over the years. Fortunate enough to get to a point where we landed an SBA loan, which, if anybody's ever been through, it's one of the most strenuous processes I've literally ever been through my entire life from an application standpoint, approval process. But we were fortunate enough to have everything aligned to be able to do that and refinance some things and get us into a really good position for moving forward.
All right. Would you guys like to take another break? We're 2/3 in. 15 to go.
It's okay. Well, we can take a break. But we don't have any other sponsors. We can keep going.
All right, let's do it then.
It's fine.
All right, here we go. How do you build a successful customer base?
Be honest, respond quickly, and under promise, over deliver.
Yeah.
All right.
Big time. Number 2, I cannot stress enough. Just respond, people. I mean, like,
Document everything.
I mean, even back to just recently in this new building, trying to get a sign done, and I contacted 4 companies.
Yeah.
And I mean, it 2 of them took over a week to reply, and it's like, I'm trying to give you business. I'm trying to give you my money. Just reply.
Mm-hmm.
You'd be amazed at how many people just don't.
You just don't hear from them.
Yeah, you just never hear from them. We actually get a lot of response of, "Oh my God, that was fast." You know,
Yeah.
are you just sitting there waiting for this to come in?
Yeah.
Well,
Thanks for the quick response.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How did you guys decide on this location?
It satisfied certain criteria. So we were in Uptown Greenville, and I don't care who I offend with this anymore. I didn't care in those meetings. Parking is a fucking joke in Uptown Greenville, and anyone who has a problem with it can come to Cromwell Drive and talk to me about it. So that was one of the main things. We were going to be spending more for our employees to park than we would for rent in the building we were in.
thousands.
Yeah, and then we wanted a standalone building, and we wanted somewhere kind of more centralized to our team. So there's only one person who this is further away from their home than the other office. But for the majority, it's like everybody's within 5 minutes away. So that's very convenient because we got a few team members that have kids. Several team members are married with, and have spouses to get home to and things like that. And then ultimately just more space. Like we have the space to build what we're sitting in, more space to accommodate the team as we grow. And it's just satisfying a lot of things that have been problems for the last few years.
Did you mention parking?
Yeah, parking.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, parking.
Yeah, that's been resolved.
Yeah,
Alright,
finally.
Awesome. All right. Do you believe there is some sort of pattern or formula to become a successful entrepreneur?
Yeah, stop looking for patterns and formulas.
There's no secret sauce.
Yeah, no, so it's one of those things like you can find a mentor, find things that's like do this, do that, do this, do that, and like ways of like being lean and working fast. But ultimately, you have to understand that you're either your worst enemy or your best proponent, and get out of your own way and just do the thing. So like Chris is talking about, Chris talked about laying out your agenda. And I know this is rapid fire, but I'll speed up. The laying out your agenda and things like that. Like you can so easily get caught up in the weeds of like 30 minutes of planning your day and then like tweaking your day, whereas you could just start on it as you go and then document. Okay, this worked for me today. I'm going to replicate it tomorrow. Spend 5-10 minutes or 30 minutes may work for you. That's not like, I'm not saying that's something wrong, but I just keep a running list. So like our account manager asked us for something while we're sitting here. I put it on my list to do when I sit down, when we get done here. So it's just figuring out what works best for you and then capitalizing on it. If you're looking for a formula or something like, and that's you're banking everything on it. For the most part, you're going to learn from someone else who's done it, and their success came from doing it first, probably. Yeah.
All right, cool. Who or what has been your greatest inspiration?
In regards to my daily behavior, probably a couple mentors I had early on in the way I treat and approach things. In my pursuit to leading a kick-ass digital agency team, I don't know.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah, that's
I
a
don't
tough
have
one. I mean, we didn't, kind of goes back to earlier of, not being able to identify one particular, person.
Yeah.
Necessarily. But I mean, I don't know. For me personally, to look back on it, I mean, I've had a number of really good, male figures in my life growing up, mostly family, from both my granddads, my uncle and of course my own father. I mean, just really good work ethics, doing the right thing, and being successful, finding ways to manage the work and be successful, but also manage the family side of it too, and attention to detail. I don't know, a variety of things, but I mean, I couldn't identify, one in particular person. Certainly nobody that anyone listening would know, but I would just say I've been really fortunate to have a lot of good figures in my life growing up.
What is your favorite aspect of being an entrepreneur?
Always something new.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Always something new. I mean, that's, I would say always something new and general flexibility. Just not anything that's not corporate like. It's, I mean, supposed to talk about going into the meeting and, wearing, just a button up and pants and untucked, and they're just like, look at you, why aren't you all spiffed up and, coat on, ready to go? And it's like, I don't know, because we can be. It doesn't matter. We do good work, and we're not trying to.
One of the biggest projects I've ever sold. I sold wearing what I'm wearing right now.
Is that right?
Slacks, Oxfords, and a long sleeve t-shirt. I looked away from the thing.
Maybe we should frame it.
Yeah. Something about jersey on the wall.
All right. This would be a cool question. What has been your most satisfying moment in business?
Being done with that project we can't talk about. No, so I grew up with a dad who that's where a lot of my work ethic comes from. A dad who worked all the time, and like you have what you earn, and that's what you have, and you don't work, you don't eat type guy. And so he would never let me have participation trophies, of course, so the ones that are behind us on the wall, you can't see them in the shot, but you can see them, Kenneth. Those are a big deal to us because we hadn't won any at the time. I don't take winning a trophy lightly. So it's kind of like, putting us on the map out there for that validation of like, hey, not just our clients appreciate us, but other professionals who are further along in their careers have decided we excel here, and then we continue to get them. So those are always nice. They're also kind of pay to play, so I don't put a lot of value in them. Like my value is not found in the hardware we've collected. But I would say being able to sell some of the new things and transition away from our hands would be a big success. So like we sell a couple different products that are all mind-based and strategy-based products where we don't actually have a deliverable attached to them aside from the research that we provide back and the facilitation of surfacing your kind of toughest problems solutions. And quite literally we sell a product like that, which is all our mind.
Yeah, it's just all mine.
Yeah, for more
expertise,
for more than we used to sell our handwork for.
Yep.
So it's finding that success and proving your value, but also monetizing that same value in an entirely new way.
All right. We're getting close to the end. What kind of culture exists in your organization, and how did you establish this tone, and why did you institute this particular type of culture?
We have it's
go ahead, man. Yeah,
it's interesting. We have a culture where you are able to be vulnerable and admit you don't know something. As long as you come with an attitude of getting it done and fixing it, we're going to help you get there. If you admit you can't do something and you're not trying to learn, you're kind of,
that's a different story.
Yeah, you're kind of out the door.
Yep.
But we create a culture mainly of communication and openness, culture of working hard and not looking at the time. Our goal is not to keep people in here until
you leave.
Until I leave, but to keep people here until the job is done. We our culture is based around objectives. So we set objectives, we meet and satisfy those objectives, and then we celebrate that success, and then we're done. We move to the next one. And then we also have a culture of, I guess, accountability. We will very quickly call you out and make sure you're up to getting your things done. If you're not, we work through ways to get that corrected. And then ultimately I guess a culture of comfort as well. I mean, we probably should say no more often.
Probably.
But if you worked here, Kenneth, you could pretty much eat all 3 meals here.
Hey man, I'm down.
And
we fund a mini kitchen actually.
and not skip a beat. And you can play video games while you're doing it. So
Hey, that Modern Warfare Battle Royale just came out.
yeah, Warzone.
It's get the job done, and we don't care what else.
Right.
Get the job done, get it done well. We don't care what else.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. In one word, characterize your life as an entrepreneur. I take one, both of you guys.
One word.
One word. Holy moly.
Dig deep in that dictionary.
Do you have one handy?
I got a phone.
One word.
Spencer's going to come up with something really, really good here.
One word for what?
He's a word guy.
Define what?
To characterize your life as an entrepreneur.
So I will talk about this. We're in premarital counseling the other day with Ryan, my lovely fiance.
Who's that? Oh, she's a saint.
Yeah, she is. She's way better than I am. But she made the comment. She said one of the most admirable things about your mate or whatever. She said that you have a bizarre ability to make money with anything you do. Because I remember how mad she was when I was going through that baseball card phase.
Yeah.
And I pulled that one Mayweather and made back every dollar I spent plus some.
That quick.
Yeah, that quick, and then sold more too and made more money off of it. But they were all lower things. Anyway, one word. We're not supposed to have dead air, but
I know, right?
one word.
Want to come back to it?
I would, I mean, the first thing that comes to mind without, trying to really dig in and come up with some fancy word is relentless, from a variety of different views, personally and at work. I mean, you have to be relentless with your intention of making sure that 100 million things are at least pointed in the right direction at work and at home. And, like I said a little bit ago, throwing kids in the mix, that has that many more arrows that you've got to make sure are pointing in the right direction at all times. They don't always have to be straight up and down, but, you try to keep try to be relentless in your will to keep them at least blowing somewhat in the same direction.
All right.
Yeah, so I guess for me it'll be resilient. I guess a good word. Resilient in regards to, you want me to define what I'm talking about or just say the word and be done?
Up to you, man.
Well, you started, now you got to finish.
Okay.
Yeah, you kind of did.
Yeah, it's just understanding that, like, regardless, like Chris used the word relentless, or kind of a relentless pursuit of excellence and success. I'm assuming that's adequate there. But also resilient would be, there's certain things, and Chris knows these and has seen these more than most, but there's certain things that can derail me in the moment. But I'm very quick to let that go. Like once it's done, it's done. And I'm back to like being productive and being back where I was, or further ahead rather. And but it's being able to be resilient and understand like how to quickly lateral from something, how to quickly fail at something, how to quickly pick something up new, how to swerve around something, keep going, but ultimately not allowing it to crush your character and your mind. So for the most part, I have pretty much the same demeanor, pretty much around anybody and everybody. Sometimes I tame it back based off whoever we're with, but for the most part, I'm the same. And if something's preventing me from being myself, that's when I quickly kind of ladder away. So it's resilience to outside influences preventing you from either reaching success or being who you're trying to be.
That's good.
Awesome. I love those answers, guys. Now I'm gonna kind of talk about you guys' life. What are your hobbies and what do you do in your non-work time?
Podcasts. Now, hobbies would be, I still do a lot of design just in general, like bettering my craft, because end of the day, by trade, I am a designer. And then also learning and researching new ideas. That's a lot of what I'm interested in and how we can bring those into the team and monetize them. So it goes back to the work, I guess. And here recently, I've been very interested in the hobby market. What hobby collectibles are coming back into play. So like cards are coming back up on that. They're coming back into value, collectible cards, and then comics are coming back too. Both Marvel and DC are investing a lot of money without real reason into the comic book industries to satisfy that community, but it's coming back. Like when Walmart still starts selling comic books are coming back.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like Walmart is now actively selling new comic books.
When did that happen?
In the last few weeks.
Wow.
Yeah. They only get a couple like of the cheaper ones, but they get bigger names, you know. But like when you see that, it's like, okay, this is coming in time. So those are kind of the places where I am right now in regards to hobbies. And I guess interest would just be business and building other things.
Okay.
I haven't even told you this, but I started a wedding officiant coach business.
Oh, nice.
In Nags Head with a guy who does like 80 weddings a year.
What's his name?
Jay Bowman.
Okay.
Yeah.
I got married out there and
Reverend Jay is what they call him.
Kildeville Hills, and a guy that started something like that has been real successful. I'll share it with you.
It's like a LMS product that we're already created and all that stuff. They gave me
Nice.
So 3-way split
There you go.
operating agreement. There you go, folks. You can have a side hustle and still work a full-time job.
You can.
You can still internet
really
from your
can
job.
Happen.
Nah, I use internet at my house too.
You did talk about a hobby that doesn't make money in there somewhere, right? Was it the comics?
Well,
Or are you going to flip those?
I will flip them,
Okay.
and then the podcast we're running about comics will make
Okay.
money.
Yeah. I don't know. Interest, one of the things that Spencer and I align on a lot is just business in general of, I can never get away from it and from an aspect of what any interest that I have, like in free time, downtime, anything that, looking at different businesses for sale and what is available out there in terms of potential partnerships. And, it's hard to ever shut off the growth mindset of how can we continue to grow? How can we continue to become bigger and better? What does that entail? It's hard to ever shut that off. I mean, I have notes on my phone of just brainstorming when, I actually do have a minute at home alone and, going through things like that. And I'll just, whatever's in my head thinking about it, I'll just jot it down and, circle back to it, see if something makes sense to, pursue at a later date. But outside of that, I mean, just general hobbies. I mean, I've got 2 little girls that I pretty much my full-time hobbies right now that I, love spending every minute with, watching them grow up. And I love to golf. I don't have the time for it, and I'm not very good at it. I like to do it because it's therapeutic.
I'm a
to
big
me.
time on golf as well.
Yeah,
really. Yeah.
a lot of people would laugh at me saying that it's therapeutic because it can be a very frustrating game, but
It is.
that's one of the things I love about it. So
Awesome.
One hobby that doesn't make me money but costs me money is guns.
oh, that's true. Yep.
Yeah.
In that boat.
Awesome.
When are we going shooting again?
Soon. It's warm outside.
It is finally.
It is 70
I'm
degrees
ready.
outside.
Yeah.
Beautiful day. All right, well, last 2 questions. How can you prevent mistakes or do damage control?
Accept that it's gonna come.
Yeah.
Damage control is just be as transparent as you can be with those around you that you trust. I would say, but also, I guess, I think that's one of the main things. Be transparent as you can be, but then understand that it's going to be like, don't try and stop pain from coming, but just weather through it.
Yep.
Does that make sense?
Failure's
it
going to
does,
happen.
yes.
Yeah, yeah.
Failure is going to happen regardless, and it's how you work through it.
Yeah.
In that moment. So be prepared to fail. It's going to happen. It's exactly how you work through it, and don't let it derail the overarching goal of whatever it is you're doing or trying to complete.
There's one story about an HR incident we've had.
Oh boy. Wow. Haven't thought about that one in a while.
And I don't know. I know one of them will never listen to it. I don't know if the other one will, but it's probably like the biggest damage control instance. And I can remember walking into Chris's office, and at the time, so we have, like, those of you that are watching, you'll never see this, but we have a clear door in our, like, Kenneth, you can see it. We have a clear door in our office, and that's kind of like been the thing with all Red Shark offices. We have white doors with glass. Every Red Shark office do that. At the time, we were in a new office. We had those doors, but they had paper over them because they hadn't been painted. And so they wouldn't really shut that well. And I can remember I walked into, this is the day after this particular event has happened, and pardon my French for what I'm about to say, but I walked in to Chris's office, and he and the CFO were sitting there talking to some remote HR person, I think. And I looked at him, and I was like, I don't care what y'all say or what y'all do with this, but what y'all say to them, the two people who were involved in this particular dispute. I was like, but y'all have got to tell me something, because these crazy bitches will not get out of my office crying. And now I can be a lot more transparent.
It's the biggest plea for help I think I've ever seen. And like
I can be very transparent in that room and very blunt in that room. Now I was both of them can say I was very accommodating and patient through that whole thing. But I was just like, Chris, I get you own this company, but this shut door management is not working for this thing. So it's like we just kind of bit that bullet and had to know, like, this is our decision. It's either going to suck or not. But let's just go.
It was going to suck. And in that exact moment, he was right. I mean, we were trying to figure out exactly what to do, how to handle it. It had nothing to do with us. It had to do with two employees and each other. And just, I don't know, one of those things that you're you can prepare, but you can't prepare for everything. And, trying to, Spencer's out there with the fire hose, trying to keep it from just absolutely exploding.
They're trying to solve day one's problem. Meanwhile, day two is happening in parallel. And it's like,
day three was coming hot too.
Yeah. All right.
We can tell you that story after this, Kenneth.
All righty. Look forward to it. So last question for you guys. If you were to conduct this interview as I'm doing right now, what questions would you ask? That I maybe haven't touched on, or did I ask other questions that you think you would ask?
What was your goal here today with your set of questions?
To get an A. Trying to get an A.
Yeah,
Well,
that'd be nice. But see, I had pondered on some thoughts of ideas that I'd like to pursue one day. Mm-hmm. Now I'm not I don't have the background on you guys that you guys might have, but
don't let that stop you.
Yeah, exactly, like you said. But there have been some ideas that I'd like to figure out how to start my own business. I have people who have the money. I have people, who own websites that know how to do websites. I have a mom who's a photographer, and it's just.
Did you hear that? He was very clearly saying he does not need our services.
Yeah, well, we're never hearing from him again.
No, not that. But it'd be nice to work for you guys one day, though. How? I guess my overall goal is. That's a tough question. Is pretty much how to start.
Yeah.
Right.
I don't know to, go from just
pen to
the
paper,
idea.
one foot after another.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's understanding what's making money right now. Right. So that would be a question I would ask to a group of people. If the roles are reversed, I would ask the question of what models are making money right now. Right. And then then I would ask, okay, so looking at that, let's think about a hypothetical of this particular industry. How would you make money with each one of those 3 models or 5 models with this particular type of industry? And then you kind of like expound from there. That's one of the questions I would probably ask that hasn't been asked. And knowing that's going to help me when I sit down. It's like, okay, what's the best way for me to make money? So it's like with Officiant Coach. So there's a way to flat sell the product, and we've proven that we can get $59 a product by selling it, but also we're having to spend like $20 per person to actually purchase it. And then splitting $30 three ways is not, or $40, splitting $40 three ways is not a lot of money. But we also know that it's a community. People in that particular world want to be in a community. So selling the product for cheaper, but requiring them to have a $10 a month subscription into a private Facebook group is a subscription model that we know is bringing success. And a subscription model, also this is kind of a taboo subject, but like look at the porn industry, which is a weird thing that most people don't just look at. But you have really big porn publishers who are going out of business because everything's stolen and placed on free sites. Yet big adult actresses and actors are leaving the industry and creating private Snapchats and OnlyFans, where they have hundreds of thousands of fans who are paying $13 to $25 a month just to see them, but would never pay $9 a month to be a member of one of these other establishments. And those establishments are going out of business. So it's understanding that this kind of like direct access to content and subscription model works, and like direct feedback from those you respect or look up to. Now, of course, that's a very, very random specific example, but we found that model the same with the Officiant Coach stuff. This model within inside the wedding industry is, our friends doing the ceremony, our brother's doing the ceremony, our cousin's doing the ceremony, her brother, his, all that stuff. Those people need somewhere to learn how to do it well. Maybe they're not good at public speaking, but they're going to learn. Maybe they are uncomfortable or unsure of what a script needs to be, things like that. So understanding that how digital products work, giving out a free resource, gets an email, that's transactional. Building that list, like having a long list, is something you can monetize, but also converting that list into a subscription-based model where you're pumping out a ton of value. That's entrepreneurship 101. You build a network of, say we create a digital marketing network, and it's $15 a month for you to join as an agency owner. And Chris and I go live once a week, or Chris goes live once a week and I go live once every other week, etc. We start building up to a place, and we start with 50, maybe 50 people. And then we get to a place where there's 300 people. Chris and I probably just need to go in there and comment once or twice. So entrepreneurship is building something bigger than yourself and then selling it. If we're able to build a network of communication that's bigger than ourselves, we don't have a product inventory. We don't have anything like that. We don't have any overhead expenses. We've had patience and built a network around another service, and that's its own business in itself. So that's a whole bunch of things all wrapped up into one. But at the end of the day, it's figuring out what works the best, and then how to fit your product into that model that's bringing success to literally people from every industry.
Yeah, you said that great. The two things I was going to add to that, and you hit on both of them without not necessarily saying it, was number one, of course, you have to provide that value, but then two, the longevity of that value, right? And that's what you just got to was, when you get it to grow to that point, and now it's just, okay, hey, in that example, now we're just commenting here and there, and there's all this value in this group, this paid subscription group, with content that's generated by others. Now you've established longevity of that. So, I would add in some of that when, getting into the details of the value that you are providing, and then what is the long-term outlook look like for whatever it is that you're doing, whether that be, economically or just scalability wise. You got to think about those things.
Okay. I'm gonna go ahead and wrap this up. There's a question that has been pondering on my mind a little bit. Now this is going to be posted on Spotify, correct?
It is.
All right. Cool. I have, my professor's going to be listening. I'm assuming some fellow classmates might, and maybe some of those classmates might be willing, or thinking about starting a business or have that idea. What's advice that you may be able to give them that won't make them as nervous or scared? Maybe this idea is not worth pushing or pursuing. what's, that advice you can give them, maybe it's worth that idea it's a different idea. You can pursue it or you could push it.
As far as having the confidence to pursue it?
Yeah.
I think you've got to do enough research up front and like exactly what we just talked about. You got to do enough research up front to, be able to have the confidence that you're providing value to somebody or a group or a business, whatever it may be. And as soon as you can prove that, even with one example, that's all the confidence that you need to keep moving forward with it. And then you go into, okay, well, how can I scale this? And what's the longevity of the business going to be? And all the different things that you've got to think about when creating a business. But as soon as you prove that concept, even once, that should be, in my eyes, all the confidence and reassurance that you need to continue moving forward with the plan.
Awesome.
Yeah, I would say define the value you're going to add and who you're going to add that value, like who you're adding value for. Define those two things first, and then start looking at the barrier of entry into establishing the service, and then build from there around it. Your messaging, your brand, everything like that. But the value you add, who that value is being given to, or what that value is being given to, and the barrier of entry into providing said value to said person. I would go that route.
All right, guys. I really do appreciate you guys having me here. It's been a blast. Maybe another day I can do this with you guys.
Yeah.
So I really do appreciate giving the opportunity of doing my first podcast. It was eye-opening.
Yeah, there were good questions.
Yeah, you probably had no idea what to expect walking in, did you? Yeah.
No,
yeah.
I didn't.
Well, we don't have a sign out front either, so he didn't even know if he was in the right place when he first got here.
Oh, nice, yeah. And it's not like there's someone to greet you when you walk in the door. We're very secretive.
Abby ran up there. She did
a
good
okay.
job.
Yeah.
Doing her job. So
anyway.
Thank you for your time. Much appreciated. They were good questions. And I wanna hear a follow up of how this went.
Yeah, we want to see that. We'll let the listeners know too.
Okay.
Yeah.
Awesome.
We can do a reveal on the podcast. We'll just have him back for 5 minutes.
All
hey,
right.
What'd you make? And just
Perfect.
Get out. Get out. Anyway, but for those of you who have stuck around this long and are watching on YouTube or are listening on Spotify, thank you so much. Please leave a like, subscribe, post notifications on, and we will see you next week for the start of season 1. This is Agency Basement. Thank you.
Agency Basement is a React Radio production. All contents are filmed and edited in the React studio. For past episodes, as well as our sister shows, check out reactradionc.com. Thanks for listening.